Let me tell you a secret about Sagittarius. This sign is one of the most misunderstood in the zodiac. People see their love for freedom and instantly think they're afraid of commitment. They hear their blunt honesty and label them as insensitive, but there is so much more beneath the surface. Today, we're diving deep into what truly makes Sagittarius tick: the good, the bad, and everything in between. Sagittarius, the archer, the centaur. Half human, half horse. This isn't just a sign, it's a contradiction. A struggle between instincts and aspirations, between wildness and wisdom. It's the embodiment of the pursuit, the eternal search for something more. More meaning, more truth, more adventure. But is it ever enough? Take their relationships, for instance. Sagittarians are often labeled as commitment phobes. Their hearts crave freedom, and their spirits reject chains. It's not that they can't love. In fact, they love deeply, but the idea of staying in one place, one emotional space, can feel like suffocation. Are Sagittarians really incapable of long-term commitment? That's the question that haunts them. The answer isn't black and white. It's complex, just like the archer themselves. Freedom, after all, is their highest value, and often that freedom is mistaken for detachment. But here's the truth: freedom for them is love. It's the only way they can breathe. Imagine a relationship where every day feels like a new adventure. That's what Sagittarius wants. They thrive on novelty, on experiences that keep them feeling alive. Routine can feel like a cage, and the idea of being trapped in a predictable life is terrifying. It's not that they don't value stability. They do, but it has to come with the promise of growth, of excitement, of endless horizons to explore together. Picture a love that is constantly evolving, constantly moving. That's Sagittarius. It's like being with someone who wakes up each day and asks, "What's next?" There is a kind of magic in that spontaneity, but there's also a challenge. Partners of Sagittarians must be willing to embrace the unknown, to find comfort in the unpredictable. Think of a love that feels like a road trip without a map, thrilling, full of possibilities, but requiring trust that you'll end up somewhere amazing. Now, let's talk about their honesty. Sagittarians are known for their bluntness. They call it honesty. Others might call it insensitivity. But why is that? Honesty is a virtue. Yet when Sagittarius speaks, the truth can sometimes hurt. Do they cross the line between truth and tactlessness? Picture a sharp arrow. It can pierce through darkness, revealing clarity, but it can also wound. That's the Sagittarius paradox. A desire to enlighten, sometimes without considering the cost. Imagine a friend who tells you exactly what they think, regardless of how it makes you feel. That's Sagittarius. Is it bravery or recklessness? Depends on which side of the truth you're standing. Their honesty is often driven by a desire to help. They see the truth as a way to grow, to evolve. In their eyes, sugarcoating something doesn't do anyone any favors. But here's the thing. Sometimes people aren't ready for the truth. Sometimes the truth needs to be delivered with compassion. This is where Sagittarius can struggle. They want to help, but they don't always know how to do it gently. It's a lesson they learn over time. How to balance honesty with empathy. Think of a surgeon with a scalpel. They cut to heal, but the cut still hurts. Sagittarius sees their words as that scalpel. Necessary, precise, but not always painless. They believe that the wounds they inflict with their truth will eventually heal stronger, that honesty is the foundation for real growth. But they have to learn that timing and tone matter just as much as the truth itself. Idealism. Sagittarius is rich with it. Their optimism is a guiding light, always pointing to something better, something higher. But what happens when that idealism disconnects them from reality? Is their head so far in the clouds that they forget their feet are on the ground? Think of someone who believes in the perfect love, the perfect career, the perfect life. To Sagittarius, the dream is always just ahead. They reach for it, sometimes so far that they miss what's right in front of them. Idealism can be inspiring, but it can also lead to disappointment, especially when reality doesn't measure up to the vision they've painted in their minds. But let's not dismiss their idealism. It's what makes them inspiring. It's what makes them dream big and aim high. They believe in possibilities, in the potential for greatness. And yes, sometimes that means they get disappointed. But it also means they're always striving, always reaching for something better. Their idealism is a gift. It pushes them, and those around them, to be more, to do more, to see the world not as it is, but as it could be. Imagine a world without idealists, without people who dare to dream of something better. Sagittarius brings that energy to everything they touch. They see the cracks in the current state of things, and instead of accepting them, they imagine how those cracks could be filled. Their optimism is contagious, lifting those around them, giving hope even when things seem bleak. And what about stability? Sagittarius is always in motion, always seeking, always exploring. They love the journey more than the destination. It's this very spirit that makes them adventurous, but also restless. Can Sagittarius ever settle down? They might want to. In fact, they often do. But the call for something more, something new, is always there. Picture someone on a road trip. They might love every town they visit, but there's always another road calling their name. This restlessness isn't just about physical movement. It's about mental and emotional exploration too. Sagittarius is constantly seeking new ideas, new perspectives. They get bored easily, not just with places, but with concepts, with routines, with anything that feels stagnant. They need growth. They need change. It's what keeps them feeling alive. So, can they settle down? Yes, but only if settling down means continuing to grow, to explore, to expand. Picture a flame that never stops burning. It flickers, it dances, always changing shape, always moving. That's Sagittarius. They need a partner who understands that their version of settling down isn't about staying still. It's about finding someone who will dance with them through life, who will keep that flame alive. There's also the intellectual arrogance that Sagittarius can sometimes be accused of. They value knowledge, they strive for wisdom, and they often see themselves as the enlightened ones. Is this wisdom, or is it arrogance? They believe they're right, sometimes to the point of being dismissive of others' views. It's a fine line they walk between sharing their insight and sounding condescending. And this is where the Centaur's duality shows. They want to uplift, to educate, but at times they forget that not everyone wants to be taught. Their love for knowledge is genuine. They are lifelong learners, always curious, always questioning. They read, they explore, they debate. And sometimes they forget that not everyone shares this passion for learning. It's not that they mean to come across as arrogant. It's just that they're so excited about what they know, what they've learned, that they want to share it. But the lesson here for Sagittarius is humility. Wisdom isn't just about knowing. It's about understanding, about listening, about being open to the idea that you might be wrong. Think of a wise elder who has seen it all but doesn't impose their knowledge on others. They wait until they're asked. Sagittarius has the potential to be that elder, to be a wellspring of knowledge that people turn to. But they have to learn that sometimes the most powerful wisdom is silent. It's in listening, in understanding, in allowing others to find their own way. Relationships for Sagittarius are about exploration. They want to know you deeply, but only if you're willing to explore alongside them. This brings us to the question of fidelity. Sagittarius loves freedom, and sometimes that love of freedom can clash with the idea of monogamy. Does Sagittarius have a hard time with loyalty? The answer, again, is complex. It's not that they don't value loyalty. It's that their definition of it might be different from others. They'd want a partner who understands that love doesn't mean ownership, that commitment doesn't mean confinement. To them, love is an adventure, not a cage. Imagine a relationship where both partners are free to grow, to explore, to be themselves fully. That's what Sagittarius wants. They need a partner who is confident, who isn't threatened by their need for space, for independence. Loyalty, to them, is about being true to each other, but also true to themselves. It's about supporting each other's growth, even if that means sometimes taking separate paths. It's not always easy, but for the right partner, it can be incredibly rewarding. And then there's the authority issue. Sagittarius doesn't like rules. They don't like restrictions. They are rebels, but are they rebels with a cause, or just for the sake of rebellion? Think about it. When you tell a Sagittarius they must follow a certain path, their instinct is to question it, to defy it. Sometimes this leads to great innovations, and other times it leads to unnecessary conflict. The archer aims high, but sometimes they're aiming just to prove they can. Their relationship with authority is complex. On one hand, they respect wisdom. They respect those who have earned their position. But they have no patience for rules that feel arbitrary, for authority that hasn't been earned. They believe in freedom, in the right to choose your own path. And sometimes, that means clashing with those who want to impose their will. It's not about rebellion for the sake of rebellion. It's about integrity, about staying true to themselves, even when it's difficult. Let's talk about the Centaur's duality, the conflict between the human and the animal. This symbol is no accident. The Centaur represents the struggle between our higher selves and our primal instincts. Sagittarius embodies this internal battle. One side wants to reach for the stars, for wisdom, for understanding, while the other wants to run wild, to be untamed. It's this duality that makes Sagittarius fascinating, but also hard to pin down. They're always somewhere between the earth and the sky, between the known and the unknown. This duality is what makes Sagittarius so dynamic. They are both the philosopher and the adventurer. They want to understand the world, but they also want to experience it fully. They are thinkers, but they are also doers. They are constantly balancing these two sides of themselves, the side that seeks knowledge and the side that seeks freedom. And it's this balance that makes them so unique, so inspiring. Picture a bridge between two worlds, one of thought, one of action. Sagittarius walks that bridge every day, sometimes leaning more towards one side, sometimes the other, but never fully abandoning either. They are both the question and the answer, both the student and the teacher, always learning, always sharing. Their impatience, it's both a blessing and a curse. Sagittarius wants everything now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to stagnate. But does this impatience hold them back from achieving greatness? Perhaps. They get bored easily, and that boredom can prevent them from seeing things through to the end. They might start a project with passion, but if it doesn't move fast enough, they're ready to move on. The archer's arrow is always aimed at the horizon, rarely at the ground beneath their feet. But their impatience is also what drives them. They are constantly moving, constantly seeking. They don't settle for less than what they want. And yes, sometimes that means they miss out on the rewards that come from persistence, from patience. But it also means they are always growing, always evolving. They are never stagnant, never stuck. Their impatience is what keeps them moving forward, what keeps them reaching for the next adventure. Let's not forget their relationship with emotions. Sagittarius often prefers logic over feelings. They'd rather rationalize than confront their emotions. It's easier for them to move on, to let go, than to sit with uncomfortable feelings. Do they avoid their emotions? Maybe. It's not that they don't feel deeply. They do, but they'd rather not dwell on what's heavy. They choose the lightness of freedom over the weight of introspection. But sometimes, avoiding emotions means they miss out on the deeper connections that come from vulnerability. Emotional depth is something Sagittarius has to learn to embrace. They are capable of deep love, of deep connection, but it requires them to slow down, to sit with their feelings, to be vulnerable. It's not easy for them, but when they do it, the rewards are immense. They learn that freedom isn't just about movement. It's also about being free to feel, to connect, to love deeply without fear. It's a journey for them, one that takes time, but it's one of the most important journeys they will ever take. Think of an archer pausing before releasing their arrow. They take a breath, they steady themselves. For Sagittarius, learning to embrace their emotions is like that pause. It's about grounding themselves, about finding stability in vulnerability, about aiming their arrow with intention rather than haste. Sagittarius is a fire sign, passionate, energetic, but also impulsive. Does their fire burn too bright, too quickly? Fire gives warmth, but it can also destroy. Sagittarius's fire drives them forward, makes them inspiring, but it can also lead to rash decisions, to moments where they act before they think. It's this energy that makes them exciting but also unpredictable. You never quite know what a Sagittarius will do next, and neither do they. Their fire is their greatest strength, but also their greatest challenge. It gives them the courage to take risks, to chase their dreams, to live life fully. But it also means they have to learn to control it, to channel it in ways that are constructive rather than destructive. It's a lesson they learn over time, how to let their fire burn brightly without letting it consume them. It's about balance, about knowing when to act and when to wait, when to push forward and when to hold back. And then there's their interaction with signs of water. The emotional, sensitive signs, water and fire. They don't always mix well. Sagittarians can find it hard to understand the depth of water signs, while water signs might feel that Sagittarius is too dismissive of their feelings. It's a relationship of contrasts, one that can be enriching if both are willing to learn, but also challenging if neither is willing to bend. For Sagittarius, relationships with water signs can be incredibly rewarding, but they require patience, they require empathy. Water signs can teach Sagittarius the value of stillness, of emotional depth, of introspection. And in return, Sagittarius can teach water signs the value of adventure, of freedom, of living life with passion. It's a balance, a dance between fire and water, and when it works, it's beautiful. Finally, let's talk about their quest for truth. Sagittarius is the philosopher, the seeker, always wanting to know more, to understand the bigger picture. But can this search for truth turn into fanaticism? Do they become so attached to their beliefs that they can't see other perspectives? It's possible. When Sagittarius believes in something, they believe it fully. They want to spread their truth, to share their vision. But sometimes, in their enthusiasm, they forget that others might have different truths, that the world isn't always black and white. Their quest for truth is noble, but it requires them to stay open, to remember that truth is subjective, that everyone has their own perspective. It's about balance, about believing in something deeply, but also being willing to listen, to learn, to grow. Sagittarius is at their best when they are open, when they are willing to see the world through different eyes, when they are willing to question even their own beliefs. Think of a lighthouse, standing tall, guiding others through the darkness. That's Sagittarius at their best, shining their light, helping others find their way. But a lighthouse doesn't move. It stands firm. It listens to the waves crashing against it, and it understands that it is but one light in a vast ocean. Sagittarius must learn to be that lighthouse, strong, steady, yet humble enough to know they are part of something greater. Sagittarius is a sign of contradictions. They are freedom-loving but crave connection. They are idealistic but can struggle with the mundane. They are passionate but restless. Understanding Sagittarius means understanding that they are always in motion, always reaching, always questioning, always searching for the next horizon. It's this spirit that makes them who they are, wild, wise, and wonderfully complex. So, the next time you meet a Sagittarius, remember, they aren't just one thing. They are many things, all at once. And that's the beauty of their journey. It's not about the destination. It's about the endless quest for more, for freedom, for truth, for understanding. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes them truly free. If you're a Sagittarius, or if you know one, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you see yourself in these descriptions? What resonates and what doesn't? Leave a comment below and share your perspective. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Sagittarius, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another exploration of the zodiac. Let's keep this conversation going.